everybody, welcome to Wild Boy Movies, the place to talk movies. And today, I'm going to give you guys my top 10 favorite MCU movies. These are in fact the 10 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I consider to be really well done and the best out of the entire cinematic universe. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your favorite MCU movies. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off the list at number 10 is Captain America Civil War. Not only is this the best Captain America movie that we've gotten, but it is also the most intense movie that we've gotten in the MCU, at least in Phase 3. That airport scene in the movie has to go down as one of the best MCU fight sequences that we've gotten out of the entire MCU. I also might have a big bias towards this movie because this introduced Spider-Man into the MCU, who is my favorite superhero of all time. But even if Spider-Man didn't appear in this movie, this is a really solid MCU movie with some big stakes towards the MCU going forward after this movie. Phase 3 of the MCU started off very strong. Taking the number 9 spot is Thor Ragnarok. Now, I wasn't that big of a fan of the first two Thor movies, so I was so happy that this third movie actually ended up being better than the first two movies. Not only were there a good amount of funny moments throughout the movie, but there was also still some serious moments throughout the film. I also really dug how they included the Hulk in this movie and basically brought the end of Asgard. Hela was also a great villain in here, and they handled the death of Odin very well. But most importantly, this was a big make-or-break film for me for the Thor franchise, and it turned out to be good. This has gotta be the best film out of the entire Thor franchise. Number 8 belongs to Spider-Man Far From Home. And man, not only is this one of the best MCU movies ever, but it is also one of the best Spider-Man movies that we have ever gotten. There are a lot of things that I loved about Spider-Man Far From Home. For one, Mysterio was a great villain in this movie, even though I could have gone without him being an ex-Stark employee. And the way this film deals with Peter Parker after the events of Avengers Endgame with the death of Iron Man and how he deals with that was handled so well. And also not to mention that the mid-credits scene of the movie has to go down as one of the best end credit scenes of all time. But for me, in my opinion, when this came out, this was the peak of Spider-Man movies. Number 7 goes to Avengers Endgame. Now, when this movie came out back in 2019, I thought that this would be the best film of the entire MCU. But now, 5 years later, my mind has changed. But I still think that this was an amazing way to end off the Infinity Saga. This movie is essentially the culmination of everything that Marvel has set up with the first 10 years of the MCU, and it all gets paid off in this movie. Plus, not to mention that they handled the death of Iron Man in this movie so well to where, to me, it rivals Hugh Jackman Wolverine's death in Logan. But it is still an amazing, well done final chapter. Coming in at number 6 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, this is a team from the Marvel Comics that was so obscure that not even general audiences knew who this team was. But thanks to this movie, almost everyone knows who the Guardians of the Galaxy are. And really, all of that can be credited to James Gunn, who made such an amazing film that I would want to follow this Guardians team for at least 3 movies. The characters in here were interesting, the villain I thought was pretty good, and it introduced more of the cosmic side of the MCU. And really, Marvel did the impossible. They introduced a brand new team that was so obscure, yet not only ended up being really good, but also very successful. Kicking off the top 5 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, this movie is essentially the modern day Guardians of the Galaxy. And what I mean by that is that they introduced a brand new hero in this movie, Shang-Chi, and handled his introduction so well that I am desperately waiting for when we can see Shang-Chi back in the MCU. Like, I really thought how they connected Shang-Chi to the real Mandarin. Plus, not to mention the action in the movie has gotta be the best action that we've seen in Phase 4 of the MCU. Like, they pull off some really cool martial art fight sequences in the movie that I am waiting for when Marvel releases the second Shang-Chi movie, because this first movie was such an enjoyment. Taking number 4 is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I know a lot of people did not end up liking this movie, but I ended up really liking this movie. Starting off, I love how they brought in some horror elements into this movie, and me being a big horror fan, I definitely love those inclusions in the movie. Also, America Chavez was a great addition to the MCU that, just like Shang-Chi, I want to see more of America Chavez in the future of the MCU. I also do really like the story that Doctor Strange goes through in this movie, and laying in some more info on the multiverse by introducing the idea of incursions really made me interested to see where they go with the multiverse next. So call me crazy, but I think this is an underrated MCU movie. Starting off the top 3 is Deadpool and Wolverine. This was a huge refresher for the MCU because this is the first R-rated film of the MCU, and I think they take full advantage with that R rating. Plus, not to mention that they didn't decide to recast Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and while keeping Deadpool true to his character was such a huge win. I also found this one to be the funniest one in the entire Deadpool trilogy. And I loved the arc that they gave Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in this movie, while also giving him a fully comic accurate costume. And those cameos in the movie were really awesome. Like, not only is this a huge refresher for the modern MCU, but it's also a perfect tribute to the Fox X-Men movies. Moving on now to our runner-up on this list is Avengers Infinity War. This is the beginning of where the MCU has built up since the first Iron Man movie, and it's also the beginning of the end of the Infinity Saga. And this has also gotta be the most intense MCU movie that we have ever gotten. Like, I had so much suspense when first watching this movie. And I also loved seeing the character interactions with like the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor, or even Star-Lord and Iron Man. Plus, not to mention that gigantic cliffhanger ending where Thanos snaps his fingers and wipes out half of all life in the universe. Like, the theater experience for this movie was so legendary and awesome that I never want to forget experiencing this movie for the first time. But the best MCU movie, in my opinion, is Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, that might be a big bias since I am a huge Spider-Man fan, but I honestly think that this is not only the best MCU movie, but the perfect Spider-Man movie. Like, this movie not only brought in the past Spider-Man villains, but also brought in the past Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And not only were they handled so well, but had amazing interactions with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And even putting aside the multiverse storyline, this was an amazing story for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like, the way they ended this movie was so perfect for Tom Holland's Spider-Man that it sets him up to become classic Spider-Man that we've all wanted to see. Like, this is the best the MCU has gotten. And that was my top 10 favorite MCU movies. I'm really curious from you guys, what are your guys' favorite MCU movies? Go ahead and leave them down in the comment section. And while you're at it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. And have a great day.